Welcome to the Whitespring Bunker.
These halls were built to safeguard some of the most prestigious members of the United States government.
Now we are all that remains, though we are always looking for men and women capable of restoring what has been lost.
In return, we offer this, our refuge from the world above. Please, take your time and look around. Our assets have made great efforts to restore this place to its former glory.
Welcome, member, to our little enclave.
Greetings, members. As always, I am the Operative, your designated tour guide and host here at the Whitespring. After arriving in Appalachia, the Brotherhood of Steel tried to make sense of the chaos engulfing the region. With the discovery of the PACT and the detonation of a nuclear weapon at the Nuka Cola Plant, Knight Shin heads south to investigate the Whitespring, at the Overseer's urging, leaving Fort Atlas vulnerable. Little do they know that a traitor has infiltrated their ranks, and war descends upon them. Major Stein begins to confront his own demons, deep within his subconscious, while Vinny Costas has plans for the future of the Blue Ridge Caravan. Red and Cherry continue their quest to free Antlers. Amanda and Cindy attempt to persuade Rose the RaiderBot to help their cause, while Jones and Abbie head back into the Mire. And the remnants of the new Enclave are reunited at Riverside Manor, with an eye towards the Whitespring and a daring rescue attempt. The fate of Appalachia hangs in the balance.
Very good, Grey 3. Continue your observations and let us know if anything changes.
Grey Command, or General McIntosh as he preferred, befitting the rank conferred upon him years ago when he led his Marine battalion into Vault 63 and joined the PACT, turned off the comlink and pivoted to address his visitors.
Operative Felton Reed confirms that the Brotherhood of Steel has dispatched their power armor troops on a scouting mission.
Scouting where, exactly?
The Whitespring.
My, isn't that interesting?
Shouldn't we inform Modus?
Not yet. I believe this offers us an opportunity, General, to kill two birds with one stone, as they say.
About time. I've been asking for permission to eliminate this Brotherhood for weeks now.
And your requests have been noted, both by myself and the Council. We needed time to evaluate their capabilities, and what threat they truly posed. Unfortunately for them, they have proven to be far too inquisitive, and stuck their nose where it didn't belong. I also believe this is an ideal opportunity to test our own shock troops. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Blackburn?
Quite right, Director. Dr. Williams has made great strides in perfecting a more advanced control mechanism for our Oni variants. While not perfect, it should be more than sufficient for the assault on Fort Atlas, especially given the element of surprise.
And the power armor contingent? They're far more capable, and they'll be out in the open.
We still have a sizable contingent of our prototype Oni occupying the Savage Divide. My team has already issued the appropriate suggestions to lead them to an intercept with this Brotherhood expedition. They should prove to be more than sufficient, given the number of behemoths among them.
T-51B power armor is nothing to sneeze at, Doctor. Losses will be heavy.
Losses, at this point, are not our concern. These variants are mere cannon fodder, destined to be exposed to our Oni virus or eliminated. At least in this way, we can put them to good use in our plans to secure the region.
I agree. And more importantly, so does the Council. General, we have already begun the next phase of Operation Keystone. As per standing orders, the Greys will maintain their distance and observe only. Do you understand?
Of course, Director. What about Grey 3?
Ah yes, given his location, we look forward to his first-hand report on the success of our own eye.
You are putting him directly in the line of fire, Director.
An unfortunate but necessary requirement. We cannot jeopardize the element of surprise. Knowing his reputation, I expect he will be just fine, and perhaps he can even assist in sowing confusion amongst the unsuspecting Brotherhood. And should the worst happen, his sacrifice will be honored.
As informative as Emmett Mountain was, I suspect this will also provide us with valuable data for large-scale operations once we expand beyond Appalachia.
We must prepare for the future. When will the attack commence?
This evening. It will take some time to get the motherlode transports into position. We have to reduce their speed to prevent detection from above. Dr. Williams will direct our efforts from Motherlode 7.
Excellent. Once we have eliminated the Brotherhood, we can tie up the remaining loose ends, including those other super mutants.
The Deviants. I would still like to acquire samples to determine how they came about their resistance to our FEV strains, and if they could prove immune to the Oni virus.
While normally I would agree, now is not the time for half measures. Before we move to the surface, Appalachia must be cleansed. Anyone or anything not under our control must be eliminated. The corruption of the old world must be torn out, root and branch.
Of course, Director.
Dr. Blackburn adjusted his glasses, nodded, and walked out of operations back towards his lab. Evelyn Hornwright smiled and turned her attention to the displays above the row of terminals. The maps of Appalachia highlighted key areas of PACT interest. Large areas of the Savage Divide were now controlled by their influenced supermutants. The specific genetic mutations which resulted in their increased intelligence had also made them susceptible to their subliminal messages, something they stumbled upon quite by accident.
The wonders of our technology never cease to amaze me.
The jamming technology the PAC used to isolate the region also produced a carrier wave undetectable through ordinary means, delivering messages to the supermutant hordes and directing them to expand their territory. However, Blackburn's team had also discovered that some of the enhanced supermutants were immune to their limited methods of control. These deviants, as Blackburn had named them, also exhibited signs of enhanced cognitive abilities. Not smart per se, but more human. It was a genetic aberration which had to be eliminated, especially when it was realized that it also granted them immunity to the Oni virus. On another screen, it showed the locations of the 3 missile silos, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Long coveted by the PACT, their alliance with Modus now put them within striking distance of securing the last pieces required to ensure Project Oni's success. Evelyn was confident that the AI would hold up his end of the bargain, and she eagerly awaited his notification that the silos were now acceptable. And finally, she turned her attention back to the map and focused on a series of green dots. Each of them represented free settlements, obstacles to the PAC's plan to dominate the region.
Not for much longer. Today, Appalachia. Tomorrow, the world.
Bolton Greens was once an old banquet hall and golf course, catering to the upper crust of Appalachia. After the war, the former guests became the raider gang known as the Gourmands, grotesque cannibals, hated even by their own kind, until the day came when they disappeared from the pages of post-war Appalachia. Had they eaten themselves or fallen victim to an even darker fate? Those questions would have to wait, as Bolton Greens was now the scene of a larger conflict, where another faction might discover its own dark fate.
Tell Knight Jeffries to get her squad to reinforce the southern perimeter. And I need an updated count of our fusion cores.
Knight Shin flinched as a rocket impacted against the second story of the old banquet hall. What had started as a reconnaissance in force to investigate the Whitespring had turned into a desperate stand against waves of supermutants. After leaving Fort Atlas, Shin, the Overseer, and his knights had skirted the ruins of Monongah to approach the Whitespring from the northwest. Not only would this avoid the super mutants in the Savage Divide, but it had the added benefit of potentially cutting off the new Enclave from their supporters in Vault Town. Shin had intended to travel through Bolton Green down to Somerville, where they would have set up a temporary camp before sending out patrols to investigate the resort. The Overseer had departed to return to Sutton, both to check in and rally additional support for their cause, while Shin deployed a squad of knights to check their path south for any signs of resistance.
And that was my first mistake.
The Brotherhood's modified T-51B and T-60 power armor were more than enough to deal with the scattered bands of raiders Shin expected to find, and if the new Enclave had perimeter defenses, they would think twice about engaging his troops.
Mistake number 2.
The recon squad had made it as far as the White Powder ski shop when they had been attacked by more than a dozen super mutants. They had just been inside radio range, and per standing orders, they reported the attack to Knight Shin. While it was a surprise to find super mutants outside the Divide, a mere dozen should have posed no problem for the battle-hardened members of the Brotherhood.
And that may have been my last mistake.
Shin led his force south from Bolton Green to relieve his troops to the south, when they were ambushed by an entire super mutant warband. The mutants had emerged from the trees, supported by rocket launchers and miniguns, hitting the knights in the open. It was certainly their power armor, along with the iron discipline that Shin had instilled in his command, that prevented a massacre, but it wasn't enough to save his squad at the White Powder ski shop. One last message was received, a frantic, static-filled scream. Knight Shin had ordered his troops to fall back to Bolton Greens to regroup, while also sending a runner back in the direction of Fort Atlas to let Paladin Romani know of the situation. They soon discovered that it was easier said than done, as the terrain of the forest region was not nearly as defensible as the mountains had been. The knights, arrayed in a defensive formation, found themselves under constant attack by the super mutants coming down from the hills, firing rockets and sending suiciders in an attempt to slow them down. Shin's knights had taken a few losses during the retreat, their armor providing more than adequate protection against what the super mutants could throw at them, but arriving back at Bolton Greens, they had found themselves surrounded, as more super mutants arrived, blocking the path back up towards Fort Atlas. At first, Shin sent 2 squads to clear a path, but much to his surprise, they were turned back after suffering heavy losses to well-placed mines.
Since when did super mutants start losing mines?
Forced back to Bolton Greens, Shin and his knights weathered attack after attack, being slowly pushed back towards the main banquet hall, expending ammunition at a rapid clip. But it was the supply of fusion cores which most worried him. The small batteries were the sole source of power for their armor. Once they had all been depleted, he and his knights would be doomed.
Knight Shin,
You have the fusion core count, Johnson.
we're down to less than 40%. Ammunition for the miniguns is running low as well.
Damn it. And the knights?
4 dead, another 6 wounded. But we're still fighting.
We can't stay here. We'll run out of bullets before they run out of bodies to throw on us. This was all a trap. Getting back to Atlas is our first and only priority.
There isn't much cover along the road back through Monongah. We'll be sitting ducks if we try to march that way under fire. What about Vault Town?
The Overseer claims it is under new Enclave influence. We could just be walking into yet another trap. Alright, that's it! We are the Brotherhood of Steel. We will cut our way out of here and show these super mutants what we're made of.
Yes, Knight. What are your orders?
Pull the south and west squads back to the banquet hall and let the others know we'll drive north.
But what about the mines?
If we head northwest and loop around the ridge line, we can avoid the road and where those mines are placed. See this access road? It leads up behind the nuclear power plant. We can use that for cover.
It'll be rough going. Those mutants are going to be on us as soon as we move.
How many Hellstorm missiles do we have left?
3 launchers, about 24 missiles with plasma warheads. We've been holding back on using them.
Good. Good. When we move, the super mutants will immediately move to engage. They don't know about the missiles, so they won't expect them. We'll use them to clear a path.
Damn risky plan.
Fortune favors the bold, Johnson. Get the knights ready. Ad Victoriam.
Ad Victoriam.
As the super mutants continued to press against the Brotherhood's perimeter, Shin's orders were passed along the line. With measured precision, the knights performed a delicate ballet, pulling back under fire while preparing for their own breakout. The dead were stripped of whatever useful ammunition or supplies they had, and their power armors rigged to explode if tampered with, while the wounded injected themselves with a mix of Psychobuff and Overdrive to keep themselves mobile during the fight.
We're ready, Knight Shin.
Knights of the Brotherhood, I expect each and every one of you to do your duty. We do not stop until we reach Fort Atlas. Ad Victoriam!
The super mutants pressed their apparent advantage, having led the Bucketheads into their own carefully crafted trap. When they saw the knights retreating again, the overlords ordered their suiciders forward, supported by their own miniguns and rocket launchers. They looked forward to tearing the puny humans out of their power armor and sucking the marrow from their bones. As soon as the super mutants broke cover and charged, Shin gave the order.
Fire!
The carefully concealed Hellstorm missile launchers, each equipped with 4 separate barrels, volley fired directly into the super mutant ranks. The detonations tore through the exposed super mutants, turning many of them into piles of irradiated goo. A second volley was launched at the survivors, while the Brotherhood Knights rose as one and charged forward, firing their miniguns and assault rifles. This time it was the super mutants taken completely by surprise. Their losses were severe, and the bulk of their forces were now out of position to prevent the Bucketheads from getting away. However, that didn't mean they didn't still have cards to play. Shin's knights left Bolton Greens behind as the super mutants raged, but not without suffering losses of their own. One Brotherhood Knight was killed when they stepped on a plasma mine, blowing off both their legs and bleeding out before anyone could get to them. Another was hit by an errant rocket, leaving little behind but a blasted crater and bits of metal. Despite this, Shin was confident they'd escaped and would soon be back at Fort Atlas. Elder Maxim's words echoed in his head, the warnings about FEV and the danger it presented. If these super mutants were any indication, his original mission was now more important than ever. As the Knights reached the access road, which would lead them up to the Monongah nuclear power plant, a massive roar rose above the din of their power-armored footsteps.
Night Shin! Night Shin!
Shin pushed his armor faster, and just as he reached the top of the ridge, there was another massive roar and a scream over the radio channel, and Knight Johnson's armor flew past him, half crushed, and tumbled back down the road. Turning his head back to the front, Shin could barely comprehend what he was seeing. A half-dozen enormous beasts, each more than 20 feet tall, were charging into his knights, swinging telephone poles and tree trunks like they were merely baseball bats. Caught completely off guard, the knights tried to defend themselves, only to be scattered like insects or crushed beneath the blows of these giants. Shin raised his minigun and fired, only to see the monster turn and swing at him, knocking the gun bodily from his armored hands, destroying it, before sending him flying with a backhanded swipe of its enormous hand. The radio channel was full of panic and screams. The pop of burnt-out circuitry and warning lights flashed over Shin's heads-up display as he tried to stand up, only to have the servos in his armor lock up, leaving him helpless. He could only watch as the creature raised its weapon, ready to deliver the final blow.
Oh, hell.
Shin squeezed his eyes shut as a blinding flash of light blazed across the terrain. A second whistle followed, then a third, as 2 more tactical nuclear detonations rocked the earth, sending the knight tumbling as he was buffeted by the explosions. As the roar of the blast dissipated, it was replaced with the sounds of automatic weapons fire, and Shin opened his eyes to see the last remaining behemoth peppered with bullets and lasers before it toppled over, causing a minor earthquake when it hit the ground. Blinking several times to clear his eyes, Shin saw numerous people appear out of the smoke and dust. Some appeared to be soldiers, while others were dressed in what Knight Shin typically saw as raider gear. They were moving from night to night, helping some to their feet, while assisting others, like Shin, who couldn't move. Shin tried rebooting his suit's systems again, to no avail, when a dog ran up, sniffed his armor, then started barking. The sound caught the attention of a young man carrying a bow and arrow and wearing gray combat armor, who jogged over and knelt down next to Shin and gave the dog scratches.
Good boy, Clyde. Here's some more rat jerky.
Clyde took the meat stick and ran back to the others to eat it, while the young man knocked on the power armor helmet.
Hey in there. You still alive?
I'm okay, but my armor is inoperable.
Damn.
There's a manual release. The red lever on the back.
Alright, 1 second. Almost there. Got it. Here, let me help you.
Thank you. Just, who are you people? And how are my knights?
Knights? Well, I'm Corporal Clint Jameson. We're from Vault Town. Spied those big guys up ahead and a lot of super mutants coming down from top of the world. Had a big ambush plan and you showed up.
Knight Shin, Brotherhood of Steel. The super mutants ambushed us. We need to get back to Fort Atlas immediately.
Well, Knight Shin, no can do. Can't tell if there are more super mutants up in those hills, but there sure as hell are a bunch coming up from Bolton Greens on our ass. We're getting out while the getting's good. And you got plenty of wounded. We can get you back to the settlement and take care of them.
Unacceptable. We need to return to our command.
Boy, you tinheads are just as stubborn as Taggarty's crew. Nearly just as dead.
We still want to know why we say metal men. They good distraction.
Shin turned to find an older woman and a super mutant walking up together. The woman was dressed like a raider, while the super mutant looked like something out of a Grognak comic book, and he was also carrying an M28 Fat Man tactical nuclear rocket launcher on his shoulder.
Just what the hell is going on here?
We saved your sorry asses. Though with that attitude, I'm thinking we should throw you back to the muties. No offense, Ma.
Me no care, Meg. Me get to nuke sick brothers. Me happy.
While I'm not opposed to a philosophical debate on the status of factional relationships in Appalachia, we don't have time for conversation. So, knight, king, squire, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, unless you and your men want to end up as mutant chow, you need to leave. Now.
I vote we leave them.
Can me eat?
This is no time for jokes.
I'm not joking. And I don't think Maul is either.
Sergeant? Those super mutants are getting a whole hell of a lot closer.
Last chance. You coming with us or not?
Shin looked down the hill and saw several dozen super mutants forming up. Then he turned to see his men, some in power armor, but others obviously wounded and being carried by strangers who just saved them.
Fine. But when we get to safety, I demand to speak to whomever is in charge.
Well, this ought to be fun. Hey, Ma, we're gonna need some cover. Care to toss another nuke down there?
Me can. This best day in Maul's life. Stand back.
Maul hoisted the fat man to his shoulder and walked over to the edge of the ridge. The howl of the mutant hounds could just be heard as Maul laughed and pulled the trigger.
Everyone, we gotta move. Back to Vault Town.
Shin shielded his eyes as the nuke exploded in the midst of the super mutants. Corporal Jameson grabbed his arm and pulled him along as the group of several dozen men, women, and of all things, friendly super mutants, took the survivors of his command with them as they ran down the hill away from the rising mushroom cloud. Shin still had no idea what the hell was going on, but he'd get to the bottom of it, one way or the other.
Once upon a time, 27 years after the bombs fell, there were two people, a vault dweller and a California girl. They met, and sparks flew. That's when things got interesting. Once Upon a Wasteland is their story. Follow Elizabeth Kirby and Odessa Valdez as they pursue their happily ever after in the post-apocalyptic Appalachian wasteland of Fallout 76. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other podcasting platforms. Once Upon a Wasteland, a Fallout 76 love story. Available now.
I cannot believe someone blew up the Nuka Cola Plant.
That's a problem for tomorrow, okay? Right now, we need to get this uplink thing. Do you have the installation instructions from Abbie?
I do, but I can't make heads or tails of them.
Rose can. She may be a RaiderBot, but she's still a bot. Alright, baby doll, remember, let me do the talking, okay?
Sure, but why?
Because Rose is crazier than a barrel full of snallygasters and slippier than a greased-up gulper. She'd sooner feed you to whatever pet monster she had walking around than give you the time of day.
And you're different.
Rose and I have an understanding. Raider to raider stuff.
Why doesn't that surprise me? And when did you stop being a raider again, Amanda?
Come on, baby doll. You know I gave up that life a long time ago. Well, before I met you anyway. But to Rose, once a raider, always a raider. And, well, I've managed to keep her well stocked with chems over the years.
What does Miss Handybot want with chems anyway?
Rose doesn't say, and I don't ask. It's healthier that way. A bit surprised she's still around. Those super mutants really did a number on this place.
Visitors, and not the super mutant variety, must be my lucky day, and someone else's very unlucky day.
Hey, Rose. It's Amanda, your friendly neighborhood chem dealer. Is it okay for us to come in?
Amanda, just in time. I'm down to my last dose of Psycho. Come on in. Don't mind the mess.
Amanda and Cindy stepped off the elevator to the penthouse of Top of the World. For nearly a decade, Rose the RaiderBot had held a court of one, passing along information and interacting with the factions of Appalachia, all in the name of keeping herself in chems and spreading a bit of chaos when she was able. Rose was in her little control room, overlooking the old ski resort, while her pet liberator Spike was busy skittering around under her. The bot turned to face her new visitors.
Amanda! Oh, and who's this? A new pet?
Pet?
Shh, just follow my lead. This here's Cindy. Not a pet, just a partner in crime.
Crime! Oh, a word near and dear to this old raider's heart. If I had one, that is.
Oh, we do lots of crime. That's Amanda and me. Crime morning, noon, and night.
I said play along, not lay it on too thick.
So, Amanda, you off the old straight and narrow now? To be honest, I figured you'd be mutant chow along with everyone else.
It'd take a lot more than some old super mutants to get rid of me.
That's what I like to hear. I think David would have really liked you. Amanda, of course. I am the Jones type, so I probably would have had to kill you.
That's touching.
David may be dead and gone, but he's still the love of my life. Well, and chems. And murder.
That's great, Rose, but we got some business to talk about.
Business? Like chem business? Please say chem business. Please, please, please.
We're looking for a piece of tech. Something important.
Tech? That sounds so boring. I mean, someone just dropped a nuke and you want to talk about tech? Boring.
Rose, this is serious.
Nukes are serious, you know. I mean, they're funny too, but yeah. Like, serious chaos. And if the world is going to hell again, then I mean to be high as a kite watching it all burn down.
How can you just sit back and watch all of this destruction?
That doesn't sound like a criminal to me. Wait a second, I've seen you before, haven't I?
No. Not me. Never been here before.
You're one of those stuffed shirts, aren't you?
I am not.
You're even a worse liar. Heard a rumor you all got wiped out up at the Emmett Mountain not so long ago. At least, that's what people said before the super mutants ate them.
It doesn't matter where she's from. We still got business.
I'd have little Spike here flay you alive, Amanda, if I didn't like you so much.
Rose, you have to help us. We need the uplink.
Cindy!
The uplink? Now, that's funny. Old Madigan, goody two-shoes responder idiot, came storming up here years ago. Kept saying he needed to get that uplink installed, or we were all gonna die. Turns out he was right, which was even funnier.
You're insane. It's gonna happen all over again. You need to help us.
I don't need to do anything. I have everything I need right here. Well, except for chems, but I can find any old idiot to go hug a deathclaw for me or steal chems for information or whatever.
But how are you gonna do that, Rose? Your radio doesn't work anymore. You can't talk to anyone, can you?
Well, yeah. You might have a point. But what does that have to do with the uplink?
The radios aren't broken. Someone's jamming them. We just might have figured out a way to get people talking again. Is getting your radio working worth anything to you, Rose?
Well, Appalachia has been missing the sultry sounds of old Rose. And if I can't talk to them, they can't talk to me, can they? And how else am I gonna lure some more suckers up here?
You'd be doing the right thing, too.
The right thing? Whoa, boy, you definitely don't know me, do you?
I can get you chems, too.
Chems? You know I don't take credit, Amanda.
Cindy.
What?
Your pack.
What about my pack?
Just open it. I put in a few extras.
All right, wait a second, hold on. Buff tats? Psycho buff? Amanda, where did you get all of this?
Saving it for a rainy day. Sort of.
We are going to talk about this later.
Oh, you promise? I like it when you get all bossy.
Amanda!
As much as I like watching a lover's quarrel, as much as the next bot, just give me the damn chems.
Here you go.
Ah, that really hits the spot. All right. Just what am I supposed to do with that stupid uplink again?
We have these instructions.
Well, this is interesting and not too bad, actually. And you said this will get my radio working again?
That's the plan. It'll connect to the network broadcasting out of the Mire.
You better be right. Otherwise, I'll have to kill you. Just letting you know, okay?
Whatever you say, Rose.
Good. Alright, this will take a couple of hours. Make yourself at home. I think there might be some food around. Maybe. But if you touch my chems...
You'll kill us?
Now you're getting it. Great. I'll be back when it's done. And Spike, they're friends, so no killing unless I say, right? Good boy, Spike. You're the best little liberator in all of Appalachia.
I can't believe that worked.
You said it would. You were certain.
Well, it worked anyway. And we're still alive. So I'm calling this a win. And baby doll, when I say I'll do the talking, please let me, okay?
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
And that's why I love you. Looks like we got a couple hours to kill.
Amanda.
That's not what I mean, baby doll. Those super mutants went off in an awful hurry, and that's got me worried. There's a pretty good view from up here. Grab those binoculars and let me see if we can't figure out where they went.
All right. And I hope Jones and Abbie are okay.
They have to be. This will all be for nothing if they can't get that network up and running. Frankly, I don't want to be hanging around here with a psychotic RaiderBot if that happens.
Fingers crossed. Now, let's take a look and see if we can spot those super mutants.
Cindy and Amanda walked out on the deck of Top of the World and turned their binoculars to the ground below, and they searched for any sign of the horde of super mutants who had once occupied the resort. As they watched and waited, Cindy reached out and took Amanda's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. It was a reminder to the former raider that there were still things in the wasteland worth fighting for. Red knelt down on top of a ridge several hours south of Sugar Grove, tracing the outline of boot prints in the dirt. Even if she couldn't smell the stench of the two raiders they were chasing in the air, the tracks she found told the tale.
They're running scared. Oh, they better be. When I get my hands on them.
We should be careful. There could be super mutants out here.
Red looked back over her shoulder at their third companion. While she appreciated the help, Dawes wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, more worried about running into super mutants than trying to track down Antlers. But an extra gun was an extra gun if push came to shove, and despite his staring at her horns and clawed fingers every chance he got, he didn't ask too many questions. Red half expected that crazy Lilith lady to volunteer to go along, as much as they kept poking and prodding her. More annoying than a swarm of blood bugs, Red finally relented and allowed Lilith to take a blood sample before they parted ways.
At least she stopped poking my horns.
Once they left Sugar Grove, it hadn't taken them long to get back to the original ambush site and find the tracks heading south.
I ain't worried about super mutants, darling. I can smell them a mile away. We gotta keep moving and find them two raiders. They didn't grab Antlers for nothing, and I aim to find out why. They can't be too far ahead. By the looks of these tracks, Antlers ain't making it easy on them.
I can imagine. Antlers can cause quite a ruckus when she wants.
Red stood up and shouldered old Percy. The tracks kept going south, and that was fine by her. After they got Antlers, she had every intention of having that little talk with Vinny. The three of them kept following the tracks in the dirt, disappearing down the path.
Ow! Stop that!
Damn it, Violet, would you just shut up? They'll hear you clear over Vault Town.
She jabbed me with those damn antlers again, Cyrus. Come on, let me cut them off.
Vinny said not to hurt her, so we ain't.
Why the hell am I the one carrying her anyway? Why don't you just call up Vinny on that damn radio of yours and scare up some help for us?
Oh, you mean this one? The one you managed to stomp and break.
Ain't my fault. We was either run or we was dead, just like the rest.
If Vinny takes it out of our pay, it's coming out of your share.
Fuck that. If anything, he owes us for all the trouble.
Ooh, maybe you ain't paying attention, Violet. It's just you and me now. Which means both of our shares just got a hell of a lot bigger. Math works, you know.
Fine. Ugh. How is she so damn heavy? But if you expect me to carry her all the way to Big Bend, then I expect we're partners, so I want an equal share.
Split 50-50. Well, ain't that a joke? 70-30.
60-40.
70-30. That's still get you more gold than you know what to do with. Chew on that for a bit, okay?
Ouch! Damn! She poked me again. Shit. Okay, fine. 70-30. Can we just get moving? What I saw Red do, I don't want to be anywhere near where she might be.
Yeah. Alright. Let me see. I think we got turned around. Damn it, we gotta backtrack.
Go back? Fuck that. As long as we're headed south, that's fine by me.
Hey, Violet, listen here. Vinny gave us that map for a reason. You want to stumble into a bunch of super mutants? You think you could talk your way out of becoming super mutant chow?
Shit.
That's what I thought. According to the map, we don't have to go too far, though. Just back to that ridgeline. Head a bit west. Then we should be back on the right trail. Now come on, Violet. The faster we get the hell out of here, the faster we get paid.
Violet cursed under her breath and followed Cyrus back up the trail. Antlers, tied and gagged to prevent her from biting, was thrown over Violet's shoulder, and she had been doing everything she could to slow him down. Poking the raider woman with her antlers had been the only thing she could do, other than just act as a dead weight. As they walked back up the trail, Antlers perked up. She smelled something very familiar, and then smiled. Two figures darted in and out of the Mire underbrush, parallel to the old State Route 65. The broken asphalt road started way down in the Cranberry Bog and twisted and turned its way north, deep into the swamps of the Mire, before turning back again into the Savage Divide. Only the most foolish would stay on the open road, however. Bloat flies, blood bugs, and stingwings infested the area, pouncing on unsuspecting prey in the open, making travel all the more treacherous in the inhospitable region. As the road branched ahead, the two stopped by a large stump to get their bearings.
Hard to believe the Mire's gotten even worse since I left.
We tried sending patrols up here a couple of years ago, but the colonel decided it wasn't worth the risk.
All of this used to be my home. My father, along with the other Free Staters, thought we'd be safe. Ironic, right?
They were doing what they thought was right.
And it doomed them, along with everyone else. I've had a lot of time to think about things, Jones. It was all falling apart even before the war. The government, the corporations, and even the people. Nobody gave a damn except for their own little piece of the pie.
It couldn't have been that bad, right?
No, it was worse. When the bombs dropped, it was everyone for themselves. The Free States, Responders, Brotherhood of Steel, and the Raiders, all carving up Appalachia for their own reasons. Of course, some were better than others, but once the scorch came boiling up from Cranberry Bog, it was all over but the dying.
But you stayed and did what you could.
For all the good it did. I lost my family, my friends. All of them because we couldn't set aside our differences and work together with the others. The scorch detection system was my own monument to the follies of Appalachia. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would come along and make it work. But I think now I might have just been kidding myself.
You're being pretty hard on yourself. It might not have helped before, but now we can put it to good use. And Appalachia needs this now, more than ever.
That's what Eugenie said, too. When I stumbled into the compound, I thought I was dying. Then I find myself alive and a ghoul. That took a while to come to grips with. But Eugenie and the others were so kind and considerate. They became my family. And I promised myself I would never go back to Appalachia ever again.
I'm glad you did. I've seen what we're up against. We're going to need all the help we can get.
The PACT, right? I can't imagine that people have been living under Appalachia for all these years. And they've been messing with super mutants? I thought the Scorched were bad, but this sounds even worse.
First thing we have to do is warn everyone. Like you said before, Appalachia fell because folks were divided. And this is our chance to avoid mistakes of the past.
That's why I like you, Jones. Ever the optimist. You know what else convinced me to come back?
What did, Abbie?
That colonel of yours. When Eugenie told me about her, I couldn't believe it. I mean, no one's perfect, but I hadn't seen Eugenie that happy, well, since I've known her. Love is a precious commodity out here. And I think that's worth fighting for.
I just wish I knew if she was still alive. We lost so many people at Emmett Mountain, and with the super mutants being everywhere, I don't know. If we can get this system up and running, maybe we can contact her.
Well, let's get moving then. We still have a ways to go to get to my bunker. Hopefully everything is still intact, and I really want to tear into this jammer too. See if I can figure out how it works, and better yet, how we can counteract it.
Then lead the way.
Jones and Abbie adjusted their packs, rechecked their weapons, and then slipped back into the brush. As the mire closed in around them, they moved with a speed and purpose through the swampy terrain. Up ahead lay a very uncertain future, but also a glimmer of hope. And sometimes, a little hope is all you need.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris.
And I'm not.
We're not doing that routine right now. We're trying to do an advertisement.
Oh, fine. I'm Sir Aloysius Pernicious, the better half of the team at One Wall Comedy.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. Anyway, come check us out on YouTube. We're your #1 source for independent sketch comedy on the internet.
Yeah, 'cause that's such a big market.
All right, come on. Let's get out of here.
I'm getting paid for this, right?
Don't push your luck.
As much as I don't like being a prisoner, at least the food ain't bad.
Seriously, Douglas?
After what we had in the mine, this is a feast.
I've got to admit, this chow is a sight better than our field rations.
You know, the canned peaches weren't that bad.
They expired 15 years ago, Barnes.
So?
That's enough, you two. I'd hoped that giving Scribe the full story would get us out of here. But now I'm not so sure. We have to get back to the Whitespring and tell them what's happening.
What about the Nuka Cola Plant?
I don't know.
Why would someone nuke the plant?
It was already there.
What?
It wasn't common knowledge, at least to most of the new Enclave. I did a tour of the plant before Thompson brought me over to Team Cryptid. There was a nuclear warhead under the factory, and the Overseer put it there.
The Overseer did what?
It's a long story, Thomas. Maybe it was a bargaining chip or insurance. I don't rightly know. But all of us had strict orders to make sure that no one went near the thing.
But someone did.
I guess so. But I have no idea why. The plant was the only way to mass produce the scorched vaccine. It's not that big of a threat anymore, but I know I felt safer knowing it was there.
This sounds an awful lot like what the Diabolicals were planning in Unstoppables number 673.
Not now, Douglas.
And us just sitting locked up here isn't helping anyone.
The survivors of Team Cryptid all looked at each other. They were stuck in the basement of what the Brotherhood of Steel was calling Fort Atlas, surrounded by heavily armed soldiers. However, they had survived worse, and as they turned their thoughts to potential escape plans, they were interrupted by a slight tremor and a rumbling sound.
What was that?
An earthquake?
Hold on.
Emily knelt down and put her hand on the floor. Through the concrete, she could feel the vibration, and it felt familiar.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Vault 79 was supposed to be full of gold.
That's what we believed. The Overseer found the plans at Vault-Tec University. The former government moved the entire U.S. gold reserve there right before the war.
And you and the Overseer were planning on gaining control of it.
Not for us. It was for the rebuilding efforts. We could have started a real currency, trade, commerce, and a whole new economy. It was exactly what we needed to jumpstart the rebuilding efforts.
And the super mutants?
It was a trap. They were waiting for us. We lost so many people. We barely managed to get out of there alive ourselves.
Then why did you lie to Knight Shin?
The Overseer told me to. We didn't know who you were. We didn't trust you. Knowing the Knight, what do you think he would have done if we had told him the truth, huh?
Probably nothing good. Day, thank you for being honest with me. I suspected something wasn't right with your stories, but as you are aware, the Overseer is very persuasive.
She is. But she's not a bad person, Paladin. I've been with her for over 3 years now, and we've always given our all to protect the people. But now, I don't know. She blames the Whitespring. But as much as I've struggled against them myself, this wasn't them. And after talking to the new Enclave prisoners you have downstairs, I fear we've all been tricked.
Come in. Valdez, did your guest leave?
She did.
And the translations?
Elizabeth, finished them. And they confirm everything we've been told. And worse.
The PACT?
They have been performing horrific experiments in that mine for years. Wendigos, something called a sheep squatch, and several other types of creatures I can't even begin to identify. Everything Captain Skinner and his people told us is true.
I cannot even fathom how anyone could do this.
It's everything Elder Maxon warned us about. Technological progress without any consideration to what harm it could cause. The other documents detail a process for manufacturing the ultrasight batteries. They're incredibly powerful, far more so than fusion cores, but also extremely dangerous.
Was there anything in there about the Whitespring?
Nothing at all.
I knew it. We've been played for fools.
Obviously, the entire region is in danger, and I won't sit back while the people suffer. First things first, however?
Knight Shin?
Exactly. Initiate Reed.
Yes, Paladin?
Send a runner to Knight Shin. His orders are hereby rescinded, and he and his knights are to return to Fort Atlas immediately.
Of course, Paladin. Right away.
Shin isn't going to like it, but once we explain what's going on, he'll understand. I also think it's time that we release our guests. And Day?
Yes, Paladin?
When the Overseer returns, the three of us are going to talk.
I understand, Paladin.
All right, then. What's that?
We've been experiencing tremors over the past day or so. It could be aftershocks from the Monongah mine collapse.
Then why is it getting stronger?
That doesn't feel like an earthquake. Scribe, call the initiates to arms. Day?
Yes, Paladin?
Follow me.
The three left the Paladin's office, with Scribe Valdez running to the barracks, past a retinue of confused Brotherhood trainees, while Paladin Romani ran out of Fort Atlas into the courtyard, with Day close behind. Bounding up the steps of the outer wall barricades, Paladin Romani brought up her binoculars and scanned the surrounding area. The tremors had increased in intensity, but the early Appalachian evening was otherwise still. Nothing appeared to be out of the ordinary at all, which was even more worrying to the Paladin.
This doesn't make any sense.
Day looked around as well, confused until he thought back to Vault 79. The dawning realization coincided with another large tremor, shaking the barricades.
Oh no. They're coming up from below!
Below? Wait. Everyone inside! We're under attack!
Once through the doors, they heard the first sounds of gunfire and guttural roars, the likes of which they had never heard before. The PACT knew exactly where the motherlode would emerge under Fort Atlas, an unused sub-basement warehouse space, once used to house supplies for the pre-war observatory experiments, and thanks to information passed along by Gray 3, or Felton Reed as he was known to the Brotherhood, they also knew it would be unguarded. The large drill rose into the empty space before stopping just short of the ceiling. Raised voices could be heard coming from above, which were quickly drowned out by the sound of a large cargo door as it swiveled open. Not a single sound issued from within, until the first figure emerged from the shadowy interior and issued a bellowing roar. Scribe Valdez had been mustering the initiates, passing out weapons from the armory, when all of Fort Atlas shook from a massive tremor, knocking over the shelves and crates.
What the hell was that?
Initiates, stay calm. Remember your training.
Sounds like you could use some help, Scribe Valdez.
Knight Clancy, you're supposed to be on bed rest.
The Fever Claw is doing a lot better, and I'm the only knight you've got, so I thought it might be a good idea to lend a hand. What's the situation?
Unknown, but it sounds like whatever it is in the sub-basement.
Alright, I'll take a squad and investigate. The rest of you, listen to the scribe and follow your orders.
Thank you, Knight. And be careful. Initiates, you four go with Knight Clancy. The rest of you cover the entrances to the sub-basement. Now, move!
The newly minted initiates snapped a quick salute, grabbed their weapons, and ran to cover the corridors leading further down into the observatory, while Knight Clancy grabbed an assault rifle and his own team and jogged down the stairs into the dimly lit sub-basement. They could hear the sound of settling rock, and something else.
Something's down here, and it ain't us.
Stalking down the corridor, the knight thought he saw a glow ahead. Raising his rifle, he slowly crept forward, with the initiates close behind. The corridor widened, and out of the darkness, a huge figure emerged, taking the group by surprise. Knight Clancy had but a second to take in what was in front of him. The creature was easily 12 feet tall, with blackish-gray skin and covered in crystal-like protrusions. Before he could pull the trigger, a dozen more creatures stormed into the corridor. Knight Clancy was the first to die, but he would not be the last. The survivors of Team Cryptid had been knocked off their feet when Fort Atlas was rocked by the largest tremor they had ever felt. Dust and debris had fallen from the ceiling, while the lighting had flickered. As they picked themselves up off the floor and looked at each other, they could hear the pounding of boots outside the door, echoing down the corridor. It was soon after that they heard the sound of gunfire, which only increased in intensity, followed by the roars of something big.
I don't like the sound of that.
We need to get out of here.
Come on, let us out!
I think we just went from the frying pan into the fire. Actually, I think the frying pan was already on fire and it just melted.
I'm done waiting for these folks to come to their senses, and it sounds like everything just went to hell in a handbasket. I don't care how it looks or what it takes. Let's find a way through that door.
Thomas, Barnes, and Douglas went to work, finally prying the legs off of one of their chairs and attempting to use it to get the door open. The sound of gunfire, roars, screams, and even several explosions grew in intensity, adding to the urgency. Just when the frame started to crack, they were all surprised by the door being unlocked and swinging open, revealing Day and several Brotherhood initiates.
We're under attack! We need your help!
You need our help? I thought we were your prisoners.
The survivors all looked at each other before Skinner stepped up.
You heard the man. Team Cryptid doesn't quit. Ever.
Thank you. Now follow me. We're trying to regroup upstairs.
There was a crescendo of gunfire and more screams from down the hall. That was enough to get everyone moving, following Day out of the room and back up a flight of stairs as the Brotherhood initiates hastily built a barricade behind them, made out of crates and boxes. Taking the stairs two at a time, followed by the echoes of gunfire, Day, Skinner, and the rest of Team Cryptid burst into the main observatory floor and were greeted by both Scribe Valdez and Paladin Romani.
Captain Skinner, my sincerest apologies for how you've been treated.
You can skip the pleasantries, Paladin. Sounds like we have bigger problems on our hands.
We've been invaded by unknown creatures from below. They've overrun almost the entire lower level, and we're barely holding them at the stairwells.
Unknown creatures? What do they look like?
Originally, we thought they were super mutants, but they are bigger than the ones we've seen, and they glow.
They glow?
Their skin is nearly black with crystals growing out of it. They don't look anything like what we've seen before.
That sounds like Scorched, but that's impossible.
That does sound like what the Scorched look like, but why impossible?
Super mutants can't be infected with Scorched Plague. There's something to do with the FEV they were infected with originally.
Whatever they are, super mutants, scorched, it doesn't matter right now. What does matter is holding out until Knight Shin returns. He has more than enough firepower to deal with this incursion.
How long before he gets here?
I had Initiate Reed send word by Fast Runner. I'm not sure how long, but I can guarantee the Knight will push his power armor troopers as hard as he can.
Then I guess we should get to work. Where do you need us?
I hoped you would say that. I need someone to take command of the south stairwell. They are getting pressed hard, but holding on.
I'll take Barnes and do what we can.
Captain Thomas, right? Can you go with Day to cover the west stairwells?
Absolutely. Douglas, you're with us.
What about me, Paladin?
We've got a lot of wounded. An extra hand in the med bay would be much appreciated.
It just so happens I'm qualified as a field medic.
Scribe, take Emily to the medical bay, then inspect the rest of our defenses. Report back here as soon as you can.
Right away, ma'am. Ad Victoriam.
Ad Victoriam. And good luck to you all. We have to hold on as long as we can.
The group broke up, with everyone heading to their assigned positions. The interior of Fort Atlas rang with the sound of more gunfire and explosions as the creatures below continued to press their attack. Nearly silent except for the occasional roar, the large monsters were nearly impervious to bullets, and they appeared to shrug off even more serious wounds as they kept fighting. The initiates, nearly all former residents of Appalachia who signed on to the Brotherhood, weren't novices by any stretch, but without many heavy weapons or any power armor, they found themselves fighting a losing battle as they were forced back, room by room, step by step. Skinner arrived with Barnes at the south stairwell, finding several wounded initiates exchanging gunfire with creatures trying to rush the stairs. When the captain saw the first of them, his mind went immediately to super mutants, but the paladin had it right. These looked like they had been infected with the Scorched Plague. Adding their firepower, aiming at the creatures' heads, the Brotherhood was barely able to repel the first attack, though it sounded as if more creatures were on their way.
Do you have any grenades?
A few?
Then get ready to use them. We need to clear some space.
Looking a bit skeptical, the initiative reached into his pack and pulled out a handful of plasma grenades. Skinner took two and handed the other two to Barnes.
Barnes, aim for the side wall. If we hit it just right, we can bounce them right down into the corridor.
No problem, Captain. That was the Vault 76 Horseshoe Champion back in 2100. Remember?
You sound like Douglas. Just throw the goddamn grenades.
Barnes just smiled, and when the first of the creatures appeared, both he and Skinner pulled the pins and threw the grenades angled at the bottom of the stairwell. Their aim was true, and the projectiles bounced off the wall and amongst the figures in the corridor. The explosions of plasma caused goo piles to splash against the stairs, evidence of their success.
That might buy us some time. Get the wounded to medical. And Barnes, check that other stairwell.
On the west side, Day found himself fighting alongside the very people he had spent the last 3 years opposing. That they had selflessly volunteered to help after the way they had been treated wasn't so much of a surprise, as it was a worldview-altering event. These were just people attempting to do the right thing, the same as Day. Port Atlas was rocked with another tremor, which Day suspected meant more creatures were being released into the sub-basement. He had no idea if they were going to be able to stop them, but they had to try. The stairwell below was once again filled with the glowing things, and Day went back to work with Captain Thomas, trying to hold the line. Upstairs, Paladin Romani received reports from her surviving troops. They were all hanging on by a thread. Hers was the only suit of power armor left in Port Atlas, and it was far past time that she used it. As she got up from her desk, Initiate Felton Reed entered.
Initiate Reed, any word from Knight Shin?
He's not coming, Paladin.
What do you mean he's not coming?
Because I didn't send anyone.
What are you talking?
With one quick motion, Felton Reed pulled the pistol from his holster and emptied the magazine into Paladin Romani. The shots were masked by the gunfire echoing up from below, and the surprised Paladin fell to the floor, pressing her hands against her chest, trying to stem the blood from her wounds. With a sneer, Felton Reed, now only Grey 3, walked up to the severely wounded Paladin and looked down at her.
Why?
Because I don't work for you. You never should have come to Appalachia.
Before Grey 3 could reload, he heard steps right outside the door, and Scribe Valdez charged into the room.
Paladin! Oh my god. What? Felton?
The Paladin was shot. I'm trying to help her.
Felton, a.k.a. Grey 3, managed to get his pistol behind his back as the scribe rushed over to the Paladin, pushing him aside and leaning down.
What happened here, Initiate? We need to get her to medical. Now!
I don't know. I was coming up here to report and I found her like this.
The Paladin was barely conscious and was trying to say something. Valdez leaned down and caught just a single word.
Reed.
Valdez turned and saw Felton just standing there, his pistol now hanging by his side.
Initiate, we have to help her. Don't just stand there.
She's probably dead anyway. Don't we have a bigger problem?
Valdez stood up and faced Initiate Reed. He no longer looked like the naive recruit who had welcomed them to Appalachia with open arms. Instead, he now smirked at her.
Too smart for your own good, I guess.
Grey 3 was going to relish killing Valdez. Then he'd be on his way, leaving the Brotherhood to its fate. Grey's 3 eyes went wide as Scribe Valdez pulled her own pistol in one smooth motion and shot him. She hadn't even hesitated, and the last thought he had before his brains were blown across the back wall was just how the hell a simple scribe had moved that fast. Valdez was used to people underestimating her. She never really trusted Felton, and she had been raised in the Brotherhood since she had been born, and she was good with a pistol. Very good, in fact. Valdez ran back to the Paladin's side and applied pressure to her wounds, but the blood was pouring from too many different places.
Oh, Dessa.
Paladin, don't talk. Let me get you to medbay.
It's too late. Knight Shin isn't coming. Reed.
Oh no. Shin never sent a runner, did he?
You must take command. Save our people. Do whatever it takes.
But Paladin...
That's an order. Odessa.
Ad Victorian, Paladin.
Valdez closed the Paladin's eyes and laid her back on the floor. Her mind was racing a mile a minute. They had been betrayed. All of this had been a trap, which meant that Knight Shin was also in grave danger. There was yet another tremor, and all of Fort Atlas rocked back and forth, which could only mean that their enemy was sending even more reinforcements against them. Without the hope of relief by Knight Shin and his troops, this would be their tomb if they didn't act quickly. Valdez grabbed the radio from the Paladin's desk.
All units. This is Scribe Valdez. Paladin Romani is dead. I am assuming command. All medical staff, evacuate the wounded. Immediately.
What about us?
Hold the stairwells until the wounded are away. Then we pull back through the main observatory. We have to give everyone a chance to escape. That goes for all units. This is the Brotherhood of Steel. We don't abandon people.
Reaching down, Valdez took the Paladin's identification tags. There was no time to move the body, and she knew Romani would understand. Instead, Valdez grabbed the radio from the table and reloaded her pistol, but not before spitting on the dead body of the traitor, Felton Reed. Jogging down to the main floor, Valdez saw the medical staff moving the wounded towards the front doors of Fort Atlas. Emily was among them, with a limping initiate at her side. The radio squawked in her hand.
We're getting overrun. We can't hold them much longer.
There was another series of explosions, and screams echoed off the interior of the observatory. The creatures rushed as one, hitting all of the teams at once, ignoring bullets, lasers, and grenades, finally breaking through. Douglas was pulled out of the line of fire by Barnes, but both were hit by rifle fire, Barnes in the leg and Douglas through the shoulder. On the other side, Day and Thomas had both suffered shrapnel wounds, but kept firing together even as the defenses crumbled around them. The survivors were pushed back, emptying their magazines, one after the other, and tossing the few grenades they had left as the first creatures reached the top of the stairs. Valdez saw one of the monsters take aim at the wounded as they finally reached the main doors. With measured aim, she fired her pistol directly into his head, over and over until it finally fell over, but not before cutting down several of her people, leaving them dead on the floor.
Everyone out! Now! Get to the road. We'll regroup there.
The survivors of Team Cryptid, along with Valdez, Day, and a few initiates, fought a desperate rearguard action. The creatures flooded into Fort Atlas, and now stood revealed in their vile glory. They were indeed scorched super mutants, that much was obvious, and in their near silence as they marched forward as an unstoppable wave was terrifying. Thomas took a burst of assault rifle fire to his torso, with the armor taking most of the damage, but one shot pierced his side. Day was right there and grabbed him, pulling him backwards, firing his rifle at the attacking creatures. Then there was another large tremor from below.
Dr. Williams, the Onai have penetrated to the main floor, and Mother Lode 6 has delivered its cargo and has disengaged successfully.
Excellent. Please notify Dr. Blackburn that we are proceeding with the final stage of the plan.
Right away, Doctor.
Now, activate Protocol Omega.
In the basement of Fort Atlas, one of the Onai leaned down and opened up a small crate. With mechanical precision, it lifted up an ultrasight battery, glowing purple in the dim light. Tucking it under its arm, the creature jogged forward, joining the host as they fulfilled their orders to eradicate the humans. The signals from the Scorch Beast robobrain were clear, pushing them all forward without any thought or action that was their own. The final survivors stumbled out into the courtyard of Fort Atlas as the rest fled down the road as ordered by Scribe Valdez. Day continued to drag the wounded Thomas along the ground and looked back to see one of the creatures run into the center of the observatory. Before Day could comprehend what was happening, the creature pulled out the purple glowing box, raised it above its head, and brought it down to the concrete floor with all of its might.
Get down!
Day slowly regained consciousness, blinking several times before the world slowly came into view. Scribe Valdez was kneeling next to him, checking his vitals.
What happened? Where are we?
We're safe for the moment.
With great difficulty, Day slowly lifted himself up and looked around. They were south of Fort Atlas in what appeared to be one of the Brotherhood checkpoints that they had set up when they arrived in Appalachia. There were about 36 people around, mostly wounded, with others moving from person to person checking on them.
Atlas is gone. We're all that's left.
Glad to see you're awake, Day. Thought we might have lost you.
He will definitely survive. Maybe a concussion and some superficial wounds. He should be up and about in no time.
Thank you, both. Besides the pounding in my head, I think I'm okay.
Even still, take it easy.
But what about those creatures? Are they coming after us?
Guess they decided that destroying Fort Atlas was more important. They took themselves out, too. Expendable assets, if you can believe it.
We were betrayed. It was all a trap. We don't even know what happened tonight, Shin. And his runner never made it back. And I have a bad feeling about that, too. We need to get somewhere safe where we can regroup. Before she died, the paladin put me in charge. And I'm going to protect our people. And that now includes all of Appalachia.
I agree with the scribe. We're all in the same boat, which means we're all on the same side. The closest safe harbor is Vault Town. As soon as we can move, everyone is heading down the mountain.
Captain, for what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything.
Day, we've all been doing what we thought was right. That doesn't mean that we haven't made a bunch of mistakes too. But I am sick and tired of being 3 steps behind whatever the hell is going on here. When we get to Vault Town, we're gonna work together for once, like we should have been doing since the beginning.
Captain Skinner held out his hand. Day looked down, then back up at the captain before taking it. Valdez smiled and put her hand on top of it as well. Within the hour, the whole group, New Enclave, Brotherhood of Steel, and Day marched down the road in the direction of Vault-Town, leaving the smoking crater of Fort Atlas behind.
Hi, I'm Fire Rider, and I'm the host of The Pixel People, a podcast dedicated to taking a close look at our favorite characters from our favorite video games. From major characters who define the course of a game's storyline, to smaller characters who you might have never noticed. Every week, we go beyond the quest line to examine a particular character's story arc and choices, and discover the real-world parallels and life lessons hidden just below the surface. I hope you'll join us. You can find the Pixel People on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Serve and protect.
At the Whitespring, the destruction of the Nuka Cola Plant had barely caused a raised eyebrow amongst the operatives of the New Enclave, and none at all from the bots that continued their carefully programmed routine, taking care of the grounds and ensuring that the borders of the resort remained inviolate against all trespassers. Within Refugee Row, there were still whispered voices of dissent, but they were now few and far between, as far too many of them had gone into the hotel, only returned with a much more compliant attitude towards the dictates of Mr. Otis, Colonel Reynolds, and most importantly, Major Stein. Upon his return to the Whitespring, Modus had taken his asset for another deep scan. The emotional outburst with his parents had been unanticipated, and had disrupted the link between the AI and the Major, if only briefly.
Despite our best efforts, he is still only human.
Finding no additional faults in the Major's enhancements, and after a thorough examination of the data, Modus returned Stein to his normal duties. But even as Stein continued to stalk the halls of the bunker and grounds of the resort, there still remained a faint glimmer of the man he had once been. It was buried deep within his subconscious. However, old memories had been reawakened. And we asked the age-old question, what is the measure of a man? Is it in his words or in his deeds?
Andy? Andy, where did you go?
Stein had no idea how long he had been walking through the long, empty corridors, or when was the last time he had seen his young friend, Andy. After hiding away from the bad man, as the boy had named the malevolent entity that had come so close to discovering their hiding place. The games they played brought vague recollections of the past, while conversations seemed to drift between the past and present, with no sense of which was which, and time appeared to have no meaning in whatever place they found themselves. That had been until recently, or perhaps long ago. He couldn't quite remember. There had been a bright flash, and Andy had yelled something, a warning perhaps, and then everything was gone. There was no childhood playroom, no games, nothing but long corridors that seemed to stretch into infinity. The hollow echo of his boots and the reverberations of his voice were his only companions, as he continued to put one foot in front of the other.
Always such a disappointment.
I couldn't even be more like his brother.
Who's there? What are you talking about?
Once a failure, always a failure.
He couldn't even save himself. How sad.
Who are you? How dare you? You don't even know me.
You really don't know, do you?
A figure walked out of the mist and darkness, wearing the uniform of an Enclave sergeant. The face was obscured until they came closer, and Stein found himself confronted by himself.
Who are you?
Took us long enough. But then again, we always were good at the hiding part of hide and seek. Andy has been trying to get us to play that game with him for forever, it seems.
Andy. The kid.
Not the greatest childhood. All those repressed memories had to go someplace, and he's been rattling here for, well, quite a while now.
Just what the hell is going on around here?
Slow on the uptake, old man. Modus really did a number on us, didn't he?
Modus? He saved us.
Saved? Well, I guess we could look at it that way. Though he did kill everyone we ever loved. Or tried to, anyway.
Modus would never do that.
What about Molly?
Molly was an accident.
Are we sure about that?
Stein grimaced as a bolt of pain shot through his temples. Images from the past, of the bunker, flooded in, nearly overwhelming him.
Modus! You open the fucking door! You're going to kill us all!
On the contrary, Major. We are fixing the problem.
And Sophia, was that an accident too?
More memories nearly brought Stein to his knees, each one a remembered conversation or scene played backwards and forwards, then ending as Sophia was taken away before he was once again hurled back into the abyss. The sensation of falling was interrupted by opening his eyes, and he was right back in the hallway, staring at the younger version of himself.
It's not true. No, it can't be true. None of it. I've only ever done what I thought was right. Done what I was told. No. You're not real. You're not real. None of this is real.
Maybe. Maybe not, but we did see dear old Dad, didn't we? And Mom?
Mom. Dad, they were supposed to be dead.
So, we do remember.
I only ever wanted them to be proud of me.
No, we became the good little soldier boy, didn't we? Well, after that little teenage rebellion.
That wasn't my fault.
Lying to us again. I seem to remember we enjoyed running with the wrong crowd. You know the old man kept us out of jail, right? Do you know how many times he talked to the sheriff or how much money he spent bribing those judges?
I don't know.
It's okay. They made us right as rain, didn't they? That captain who dragged us out of the gutter and got us into basic. What was her name again?
Captain Faustina.
Beatrice. That's right.
Don't call her that. She's a captain.
Stein was. But she sorted us out, didn't she? And were we returning the favor?
Favor? What favor? What are you talking about?
Old Modus buried those memories deep, didn't he? Hard to believe the name never rang a bell.
Captain Faustina is... Oh my god.
Oh, happy coincidence, right? The mother puts us on the path to the Whitespring, and we take her daughter under our wing.
I didn't know. I swear.
Why is it that we always betray the ones we love? Oh, Molly, then her. And finally, Sophia. Always following orders, aren't we? No matter the cost.
Shut up. You just shut up now.
Oh, not sure why Andy thought we were worth saving. We destroy everything we touch. We sacrifice whatever humanity we have left in service of some perverted ideal. Do you remember what Horatio said before he left?
I don't. Did we ever talk?
Yet another suppressed memory. Luckily for us, I have it all right here. He never wanted any of this for us, and he didn't want the nightmare our parents were trying to force down his throat either. Going to Alaska was the only way he knew to try to make things right, to try to make up for the sins of his past. I don't think dying was part of his plan, but at least he died with a clear conscience.
But he left me all alone. What else was I supposed to do?
Say no.
Just say no. You make it sound so easy.
We were there, remember? We tried, half-heartedly. But when the going got tough, we ran back to Daddy, and then ran to the army. Eckhart was damn lucky to have us at his side. Ignored your wife, ignored all of the warning signs. We aren't a hero, Stein. We're a coward.
How dare you!
How dare I? Oh, it's long past time. We remember what we did.
Andrew, you don't understand. Have you seen what's going on out there? Or worse, have you even bothered to see what's happening here?
God, I am tired of arguing with you, Molly. You know, you were the one that brought me in. It's a little too late to be getting cold feet.
This is not the kind of world I wanted for our child. Eckhart is insane. Between the experiments and the silos, the war is over. I won't just sit back and let him start it all over again.
What the hell is going on here? Molly!
Hold it right there, Andrew. We are ending this.
Pointing a gun at your husband, Molly? What did you do? Wait, is that General Santiago? Where the hell has she been all this time?
Your beloved president and Modus had been keeping her in a coma downstairs. Once she found out what they were planning, she tried to stop it, but they locked her up instead. Andrew, this is going to happen. They're going to arrest Eckhart right now and end all of this madness. A team is already down in the mainframe, and they're going to blow Modus to hell.
I have to stop this. Molly, you have no idea what Modus is capable of.
How can you care more about that damn machine than you ever did me?
It appears time is running out, Sergeant.
I almost got it, damn it. Molly, Modus, I got this. I can do this.
We calculate that you will fail.
Just one last wire. I got this. I love you, Molly.
God damn it, Andrew. I'm sorry. I love you.
What have I done? Oh, God. What have I done?
Stein felt like he was falling again, landing back in the hallway at the feet of his younger self.
We did what we were told. And that's the problem. The game was rigged from the start, and the only winning move was not to play.
I just wanted to be right. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to be right.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It's all gone, isn't it? I've ruined everything.
Oh, that's the coward talking. If we give up, then it will truly be over. Modus may be smart, but he doesn't understand us.
Us?
People. We're an emotional train wreck. We aren't logical, practical, or even sane half the time. People, we're messy. And that ties his processors up in nuts.
But what can we do? I don't even know what we are anymore.
We are Andrew Stein. And for now, that is enough. When the time comes, we can't take the easy way out. Not anymore. If you promise me that, then maybe, just maybe, there is some hope for us yet.
How can I possibly make up for what I've done? I mean, look at me. Look at me, really. I'm a monster.
Young Andrew stepped forward and took the older Stein in his arms and hugged him, and he started to cry as well. After a few minutes, or maybe an eternity, Andrew stepped back and wiped his own eyes.
I forgive you. And promise me, when we're given the chance, make the right choice this time.
I can't go back to save them. And I have to live with that. What I can do now, I do for Molly, for our daughter, for Valeria, Lilith, and for Sophia. I promise. And that is my solemn vow.
Andrew smiled, then gave a parade-worthy salute, before slowly dissolving in front of Stein until nothing remained. The corridor shifted and changed until only one path remained. Hesitating for but a moment, Stein put one foot in front of the other, walking into the unknown. He had no idea what the future might hold for him, but he had something he had lacked for so long. Hope. Major Stein stalked down the corridors of the Whitespring with new orders from Modus. The first shipment of materials from the PACT was scheduled to be delivered, and the AI wanted to ensure the safe delivery of goods. Passing by operations, Stein's eyes were drawn to one of the monitors. There on the screen was an image of Valeria's cell. The former colonel was exercising before grabbing a towel to wipe away the sweat. When she turned to the camera, a scowl on her face, Stein's cheek twitched, just for a moment. Valeria returned to her workout, and Stein reached down and turned off the monitor, leaving operations to fulfill Modus's orders. What is the measure of a man? Is it in his words or in his deeds? Yet another caravan was departing from Big Bend Tunnel, heading to points east and south. Ever since the super mutants had gone on the warpath, overrunning most of the Savage Divide, Refugees, settlers, and even raiders who could scrounge up the ever-increasing fees and caps and valuables were paying the Blue Ridge Caravan Company to get them out of the region. Vinny Costas was standing on the barricade overlooking the old railroad tracks, taking sips from his coffee mug. There was a broad smile on his face.
I love the smell of caps in the morning.
Today was a very good day for Vinny. Not only had they pulled in a record profit for the year, but Joanna Mayfield herself was paying them a visit. She and Vinny went way back, all the way to before the war, when it was the Blue Ridge Trucking Company. Theirs had always been a partnership based on business, and business had always been good. However, since arriving in Appalachia to take advantage of folks returning to the region 2 years before, Vinny had developed new interests and new partnerships. You didn't need to be a weatherman to know which way the wind was blowing, especially now. And Vinny was never one to miss a golden opportunity when he saw it.
Hey, Vinny. Joanna's here.
Vinny took a long sip from his mug and looked down at his caravan guard. Ares had been a pain in the ass ever since they started jacking up the rates for passengers fleeing the region. Ares and some of the other guards had come to him, trying to get him to offer a discount to the poorer folks, but Vinny had just laughed. That didn't sit well with the very folks who had put their lives on the lines guarding the caravans, but Vinny tossed a few more caps their way and promised, sort of, that he'd reconsider raising passenger rates in the future.
Fat chance of that.
Putting down his mug, Vinny put his hands on the railing and watched as the caravan approached the main gate. Joanna never stood much on pomp and circumstance, and she didn't mind getting her hands dirty either. Dressed in a rugged Blue Ridge Caravanner's outfit, she led her Brahmin into the compound, followed by her assistants and 3 of her own guards. In her mid-60s, Joanna still struck an imposing figure, and together with an attitude to boot, it was the primary reason she and the company had not only survived the war, but thrived in the aftermath. She'd seen potential in Appalachia, but now, despite the profits, she felt something wasn't right, which is why she made the trip here to see things for herself.
Vinny, get your ass down here.
Vinny just smiled and raised his mug before setting it down on a nearby table and walking down the metal stairs into the courtyard. Joanna was brushing the dust off her coat before reaching into her pocket and pulling out a cigarette.
Good to see you, Joanna.
Let's skip the bullshit, Vinny. It's been a long goddamn trip, and I'm here to check on my investment.
Business is booming. The caps we've been sending back should be plenty evidence of that.
It ain't just about the caps, Vinny. How come we can't get you on the radio?
That? Some kind of weird interference. We've been able to manage, but it certainly is an inconvenience.
And those things they call super mutants?
The big green guys? Certainly not our problem, and hell, it's been great for business. People are paying top caps to grab a caravan to elsewhere.
If everyone is getting out of Dodge, Vinny, just what business are we going to have left?
Joanna, you know me. I've got it covered.
Covered my ass. I've been hearing some pretty interesting stories about what you've been doing up here. Business that I ain't approved.
Don't know what to tell you, Joanna. Whoever has been talking is lying to you.
We'll see about that. I want to see the books. All of them.
Of course. I'm not hiding anything. And I'll prove it.
Joanna pulled a gold lighter from her pocket and lit the cigarette, taking a long drag and blowing smoke into the air.
I got everything in my office. Come on and then we can get you settled. Don't worry. You're really gonna like what you see.
I'll be the judge of that, Vinny.
Vinny put on his best smile and escorted Joanna to the back of the courtyard, near the tunnel entrance where he'd set up his office on this side of Big Bend. Ares was finishing up his shift and gave old Vinny the side-eye, as much as he could with his mask, then went over to go talk with Libby.
I got a real bad feeling about this.
Don't you always have a bad feeling, Ares?
Of course. And this is extra bad. Just keep an eye on things, okay?
Libby nodded and went back to work. She thought Vinny was an asshole, but she didn't expect any real trouble. Right?
That's everything. As you can see, We've been clearing a tidy profit since we started. Every cap is accounted for, along with the shares we've been sending back home.
All nice and tidy, like always, Vinny.
Absolutely.
And total bullshit.
Joanna, what the fuck are you talking about?
A little birdie has been keeping me up to date on your little side projects. Blood Eagles, that goddamn resort, and whatever else you got hidden behind your back.
I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Have I made a little extra here and there? Sure.
You and I go way back, Vinny. I know you. I've let a lot slide, but from what I'm hearing, you crossed the line. You're gonna pack your bags and get the hell out of here while I try to sort things out. I fucking mean it. Whatever you've been doing in the name of the Blue Ridge ends now.
Don't think so, Joanna.
What did you say?
You ain't the boss no more. Think of this as a hostile takeover. It's about time the Blue Ridge had someone new in charge. Boys!
What the hell, Vinny?
Just making sure we weren't interrupted. Can't make a rat-toad omelet without breaking some eggs. Now, let's talk about you signing over ownership of the caravan to me.
Like hell I will. I don't know what game you're playing, but...
No games, Joanna. Think maybe you need a little time to think it over. Boys!
Two of Vinny's guards, both carrying shotguns, came in and grabbed Joanna.
Take good care of Miss Mayfield. She'll be staying here a while.
You no good dirty-ass snake. When I get my hands on you, you're gonna regret goddamn motherfucks.
Vinny just smiled as the two guards pulled Joanna from the tent and dragged her into the tunnel, her cursing the whole way.
She'll come around, or we'll sever up to the super mutants. Her choice. The rest? Well, gold is a hell of a lot thicker than water.
Vinny reached under his desk and pulled out another bottle of whiskey. Everything was coming up roses. Well, almost everything.
Damn it, Cyrus, where the hell are you with my antlers?
Boss, what the hell is going on? Where did Joanna go?
Times are changing, Ares. And it's time for new management.
That ain't right, Vinny.
And I ain't paying you to think. It's business as usual until I say it isn't. You got it? You play your cards right and you'll be swimming in caps. Same goes for the others. But if you aren't interested, then beat feet and take your chances.
This is some bad juju, Vinny. Appalachia doesn't screw around, and karma is a cast-iron bitch.
You tell the others. Either get with the program or I find replacements. You got until tomorrow morning to make up your minds. Just to sweeten the pot, everyone who stays gets another raise. And a bonus. Plus, you won't be mutant chow.
It was impossible to read Ares' expression under his mask, but he looked Vinny up and down before leaving the tent. The echo of laughter followed him back to the courtyard, where the other caravan guards and traders were gathered.
What did he say, Ares?
Yeah, what the hell's going on?
We're in some deep shit. Everything's going sideways fast, and that light at the end of the tunnel, it's a goddamn freight train headed right for us.
Well, shit.
What do we do, Ares?
Joanna is locked up tight. But if we try to get to her, Vinny's gonna kill us. And we're as good as dead if we try to leave.
I ain't just gonna roll over, Ares. This is all wrong.
We're gonna need some help. I'm gonna make a run for Foundation. Vinny ain't gonna mind if I'm gone. Saves him a bullet is probably the way he'll see it.
Then what?
I'm gonna get help. Appalachia tried to kill me once, but she and I have an understanding. We're gonna set things right.
And if you don't come back?
Then we're all fucked anyway.
That's one hell of a pep talk, Ares.
It's just the truth. But I'll be back, and Vinny's gonna regret the day he made his deal with the devil.
The gathered crew shook hands, and Ares went off to grab his pack. He might have been a cynical bastard after everything he'd been through, but the Blue Ridge Caravan was his family, and he'd be damned if he didn't at least try to save the one life he had left. Storm clouds continued to gather on the horizon, but as long as people keep fighting against the rising darkness, there is always hope.
Hello, this is Charlie Transmutation coming to you with another PSA announcement. No, Charlie, this is a commercial. What? Crap. Nobody told me that. Well, what are you supposed to do in this thing anyway? Well, Charlie, I'm glad you asked. This is the part where we introduce our new homebrew 5e D&D podcast, The Fumbling Four and the Almighty Crit, where we explore the homebrew world of Alteris using homebrew rules and homebrew material from the Dungeon Masters Guild. Sounds boring. I'm out of here. See you later, Charlie. We hope to have you guys come check us out soon. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
There it is, Riverside Manor. Andrew and I passed this way, and we had the strangest experience.
What do you mean, strange?
We were going to explore the mansion, but next thing we knew, we woke up over there, by that abandoned garage.
Very interesting. Modus lost contact with Stein around the same time. I thought he was going to blow a transistor. Never seen him like that before.
Old Modus got angry. Oh, isn't that delicious?
Let's not keep Sergeant Blaine and the others waiting.
The group walked up the long driveway to the front entrance of Riverside Manor. Sergeant Blaine was waiting for them by the front door, without his power armor this time.
Well, ain't y'all a sight for sore eyes?
We could say the same thing. Seems like we both have some pretty amazing stories to tell.
Definitely ain't the half of it. Wait till you get a load of this place. Might as well be right out of a comic book. And Lilith?
Yes, Sergeant?
Can your hounds stay outside? They might spook the folks downstairs.
Oh, all right. Okay, girls, I want you to stay right here. Don't get into any trouble, and don't eat anything too fatty.
The two hounds appeared to nod and ran off to the other side of the driveway, where they found an old dead Scorched and started gnawing on various parts of its body.
Disgusting.
I know. Aren't they just the best?
Come on, let's go. They'll be fine.
Sergeant Blaine took the group into the mansion. Sophia had an immediate sense of déjà vu. The once abandoned home still showed signs of over a decade of neglect, but one could sense life slowly returning to the residents. Sergeant Blaine led them into the study and walked over to the player piano, hitting a series of notes on keys, which caused the secret door to reveal itself, opening and leading them down into the sanctum.
Also mysterious. I should have picked this place for my lab. Well, if I had known it was here.
You ain't seen nothing yet. The real good parts are right down here. Mind the door, it's pretty damn big.
The group approached the end of the hallway, and the wall seemed to part on a series of elaborate hinge mechanisms, pivoting outwards and then retracting into large cradles on the side. Jaws nearly dropped to the floor as the sanctum of the Mistress of Mysteries was revealed.
I must be dreaming. This can't be real.
I've seen all this before.
But you said you'd never been here, Sophia.
No, Miss Daguerre is quite right. This is her second visit to the lair, and one that I pray will be better than the first.
What? I have been here before?
Oh, yes, my dear, and I apologize to you and your friend. I believe his name was Andrew. If I had known...
Yes, no, that's his name. If you had known, would it have changed anything?
No, it wouldn't. I've guarded the secrets of the Mistress of Mysteries for a long time. When you stumbled upon the sanctum, I couldn't risk it falling into the wrong hands.
Frederick and I have shared more than a few cigars. A man's heart is in the right place, and all of this is now here to help us. And we're all in big trouble.
I know, big trouble, but Frederick, I expect you to fill in the blanks, too.
My dear, I promise. But first, let's get you settled. I have plenty of space and even more to talk about. I believe we have a rescue to plan.
You're damn right we do. Modus is keeping Val in a cage, and that is entirely unacceptable. I swear, I'm going to rip out his transistors with my bare hands.
Yes, Val and Andrew. I'm not going to leave him there. We are going to get him back.
Sophia, that might not be possible. I've already told you. He's not the man you think he is.
I know what you've said, but he is in there somewhere, and I will not leave him behind.
It appears we have much to discuss. I have tasked Cryptos with analyzing all of the data that we have collected over the years, plus the new feed we have gotten from the Sugar Grove. I also have several inventions of my own, which I believe will prove useful in extracting the kernel from Modus's clutches.
I know it's a lot, and we didn't get a chance to tell you everything, but let's get y'all some food and drink, then we can talk about the plan.
Fine by me. I'm still hungry.
You're always hungry, Lilith.
So?
Graham should have some mole rat stew ready to go. He's one hell of a cook.
Who's Graham?
Our super mutant.
You're what? Super mutant. Cook?
Well, like I said, we didn't get a chance to tell you everything. Just don't stare.
The group followed Blaine and Frederick as they walked down the stairs and across the sanctum floor. They all looked around in amazement, as though they had stepped directly into the pages of an Unstoppables comic book. At the back of the hall, they entered a small cafeteria.
Well, look who the cat dragged in.
About time. Thought you'd never get here.
Well, hey, all. What do you, think of the sanctum?
New friends. Just in time for meat cook.
Glad you all could make it.
The two groups of survivors became one, with hugs, slaps on back, and shaking of hands between them. Graham became the center of attention as he began serving hefty portions of mole rat stew and asking about items for trade. All the while, Frederick stood back and watched. It had been years since he had stood in this very spot, watching his girls reenact similar scenes. That time in his life had ended in tragedy, but this time, he promised himself it would be different. As everyone ate, the topic of conversation soon turned to their plan to rescue the Colonel.
Modus has got the whole resort locked down tight. Bots have been frying anyone who gets close.
And he's brainwashed everyone else. I don't see how the hell we're going to get inside.
Even if we're able to get in, just how do we plan on getting out after?
Well, Shadow has a way to get in. Isn't that right?
I can get us in undetected. Plenty of times I've needed to get off the grounds without anyone seeing me. But when we're inside, that's a whole other story.
Old Frederick here has something for that, don't you, Fred?
I do, Sergeant. I have a device which will mask your signatures from Modus's sensors, and will allow you to move undetected. In theory.
In theory?
I haven't had the opportunity to test it, but in theory it should work.
Great.
Frederick is one hell of an inventor. If he says it'll work, I believe him.
We'll take whatever we can get.
Even if we can get to the Colonel and get her out, Modus is going to realize she is gone. We can't jam everything.
Leave that to me. If I can get to my quarters, I have a little surprise for dear old Modus. Something I've been working on for a while.
We're still going to need to keep the extraction team to a minimum. The more of us there are, the greater chance we'll get discovered going in.
Right. Then it will be me, you, and Lilith.
What about the rest of us?
We'll need a distraction. If you can get Modus' attention, it should help us get in without being noticed.
I don't know how I feel about being a sacrificial lamb.
Oh, come on, Bitter. Where's your sense of adventure?
My sense of adventure? Do you remember our time with Lilith, right?
Those were the days, weren't they? Oh, if only Malgus could be here. Come on, Bitter. It'll be fun, I promise.
Ah, that's what I'm afraid of.
So, you need a distraction, huh? I think we can arrange that.
Frederick,
Yes, Cryptos?
we have completed my analysis.
Good, good. We'll meet in the main conference room.
We will be waiting.
My friends, let us take this conversation upstairs. While my wife used to lead meetings like this with our girls, I will do my best to act in her place. We can go over the plan and all of our parts in it.
Thank you, Frederick.
My dear Sophia, if we can help make up for the past, it will be our greatest pleasure to help. However, even if this succeeds, we still have an even greater threat to deal with.
Val will know what to do. She always does.
I hope you're right, Lilith. I don't plan on dying for nothing.
One miracle at a time. Hey, Frederick, you have any more of that good bourbon?
Of course, Sergeant.
Me want some too. Make belly feel all warm inside.
Come on, big guy. I'll make sure you get your share. Just don't drink it all.
Me not, Sam.
The group finished up and walked back through the sanctum and up a set of stairs. The symbol of the Mistress of Mysteries was emblazoned on the door leading to the conference room with a large table and surrounded by chairs. As they all took their seats, well, Graham sat in the corner. Frederick took his place at the front of the room.
Cryptos, bring up all information and your analysis on our plan, the Colonel's Gambit.
Thank you again, members, for joining us here on The Modus Files. If you've enjoyed this content, please subscribe, and better yet, please leave a review to help others find our little enclave. You can also follow us on our various social media accounts, including Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, at Modus Files or at Modus Files Podcast, for more information about our story, Fallout 76 content, and random musings on the Enclave. We also have a Patreon if you'd like to support our work and receive special benefits like early access to our episodes, original scripts, and special events with our cast. A link to our Patreon can be found at modusfiles.com. I'd also like to thank our cast, Pandora Beatrix as Joanna Mayfield, Lucy Middleton as Major Lilith Alistair and Amanda, Chrissy Williams as Traitor Red, Researcher Emily, Dr. Williams, Vera, and Shannon Rivers, aka Cryptos. XO1 King as Major Andrew Stein, Mandy Marie B. as Abigail Singh, Austin Rogers as Lieutenant Jones, Chris Smith from One Wall Comedy as Sergeant Blaine, Private Barnes, Felton Reed, Graham, Maul, the rest of the Super Mutants, Vinny Costas, Ares, and Night Shin, Maria Cheshire as Lieutenant Cindy and RaiderBot Rose, Jessica Starr as Sophia Daguerre, Patrick Conway as Frederick Rivers, Kirsty Harrison as Evelyn Hornwright and Paladin Romani, DJ Reed as Captain Thomas, the Initiate, and Private Dawes, Vitriol Plays as Scribe Odessa Valdez, Ryan Negrin as Day, M. Dash as Sergeant Andrew Stein, Rob Cunningham as Private Lawson, Eric Gold as Grey Commander and Private Douglas, Dr. Mark Harsworth as Bitter and Dr. Blackburn, Josh Smith as Captain Skinner, Aaron McNamara as Dr. Naomi Harefield, Cherry Pixel as Cherry, Daniel Hawthorne as Lieutenant Shadow, Tim Young as Sullivan, Casual in a Corset as Private Samantha and Libby, Jeff Lincoln as Knight Johnson, Don McCormick as Raider Boss Meg, Ranger Rick as Knight Clancy, Aaron Etherton as Corporal Jameson, Amanda Lee as Violet, Steve Lundberg as Raider Boss Cyrus, Chris Basso as the Technician, and Brad Williams as Sergeant Mueller and the voice of Modus. As our third season continues, we want to thank the incredible cast, crew, and community that we have the honor to interact with every day. Without your support, none of this would have been possible. And a special shout out to the members of our Patreon, including Ranger Rick, Lazarus of Death, Lori Casada, Aaron Etherton, Kelly Sapp, Pierce Kenny, and Don McCormick. Stay tuned for our next episode, The Colonel's Gambit. Lastly, thank you to all of our subscribers and supporters. God bless the Enclave, and God bless America.
Members, we look forward to your next visit to our little enclave.